Nothing arrives without a bill. Nothing. The cost was always there. You just did not see who was paying. That is the first trap. Not one built from outside, one you stepped into willingly, because the alternative was harder. Accepting that everything you want has a price behind it, always, without exception, without a version that costs nothing. The morning you slept through, paid. Someone else paid it with movement. The decision you kept postponing, paid. Someone else paid it with discomfort. The version of you still waiting to appear, already paid for by someone who stopped waiting first. What you call luck was someone's unreported sacrifice. What you call timing was someone's decision to stay when every signal pointed toward leaving. What you call natural ability was someone's private 1,000 hours, paid in rooms nobody else entered, without applause, without recognition, without any guarantee of return. You have been watching the result, not the cost. That gap between what is visible and what it actually required is where all the confusion lives, is where the wrong conclusions form. That is why some arrivals look unearned. Nobody was handed something different. The debt transferred. Someone paid it before the result was visible, so the result looked like arrival, not payment.
Stop. Not as a command, as a question you cannot step around. What have you actually been doing? Not what you planned, not what you intended. What actually happened? What the hours went toward? What the years actually produced? You waited for the version without the price, the path without the grind, the result without the years. That version was never coming, and the waiting itself had a cost. That is the piece that has to land, harder than it usually does. Every month of holding still, the debt grew, not as punishment, as the basic mechanics of how cost works. The skill not built this year costs more to build next year. The body not maintained this decade costs more to recover the next. The conversation not had this month costs more to reach next month. Nothing froze while you waited. Nothing stayed exactly where it was. Everything kept moving. Everything kept charging. The one who started 5 years before you did not find a different world, found the same prices, just paid them earlier. 5 years earlier on the same debt you are still calculating. That is not about fairness. It was never about fairness. Fairness is a negotiation with a world that does not negotiate. What does staying still cost you? Not today, not this week. 1 year from now, 5 years from now, at the actual end. Picture that end. Not the dramatic version, the quiet one. The one where you sit still and account for what was paid and what was refused, and what the refusing cost, above everything else. That version is not a distant warning. That version is under construction, with every hour that passes, every decision left untouched, every invoice left sitting unopened. You are building that moment, not by choosing it, by not choosing differently, by continuing to calculate whether the price is fair enough to actually pay. One thing separates the paid version from where you stand now. Not talent, not timing, not conditions you did not have. Hold that. It closes at the end. The ones who changed direction did not change because conditions improved, did not wait for the price to soften, did not negotiate with cost, accepted it, chose to pay while time was available, while the debt was still manageable, while the currency was still there. That is the whole difference.
one decision, not a system, not a framework. The decision to pay before the debt becomes unpayable. Something specific is being avoided. The one reading this already knows what it is, already has the number, already knows the exact invoice sitting unopened, because opening it makes it real. Real means unavoidable. Unavoidable means deciding.
Open it. Not because the number will feel small, because leaving it there costs more. Every single day it sits, payment is already happening without progress, without movement, without anything being built from the cost. That is the hardest kind of debt. Spending everything available, getting nothing in return, just accumulating more balance by avoiding the original one. What does it actually take to build something real? Not the easy answer, the actual one. It takes longer than planned. It costs more than budgeted. It requires a version of you that does not exist yet, one built only by paying the cost of building it. There is no shortcut in that sequence, no arriving at capable before becoming capable, no borrowing the version that only exists on the other side of the cost. You become it by paying the price of becoming it. Earn it, not as a slogan, as the actual sequence. Pay, become, have, in that order, every time, without exception, without a version that skips the middle. The body that looks capable was built by someone who paid in exhaustion, repeated exhaustion, past comfort, past reward, past the point of anyone noticing, just kept paying, because stopping meant not having it. The skill that looks effortless was built by someone who paid in humiliation, public failure nobody celebrates, private failure nobody witnessed, kept paying, because stopping meant staying exactly where the failure was. The relationship that holds was built by someone who paid in discomfort, hard conversations at the worst times, honesty when silence was easier, vulnerability without a guarantee, kept paying. Because the version without cost is not a relationship, it is proximity. Two people near each other, without building anything, without the cost of honesty between them, without the payment of real time. That version stays comfortable until it cannot, and then it becomes the most expensive thing, because now there is debt and loss at the same time. Built things hold, paid things last. What you have been calling a problem is actually an invoice. The chaos in your schedule, an invoice for structure not built. The weight in your body, an invoice for mornings not paid. The distance in your closest relationships, an invoice for conversations avoided. The gap between where you stand and where you intended to be, an invoice unpaid. None of it is happening to you. All of it is waiting for the decision that paying now is cheaper than paying later at a rate that becomes unmanageable. The one who already knows the total, who has been carrying the number without opening the envelope, this is for that one specifically. The number is real, and it is growing. Here is what remains available, not as comfort, as fact. What is available is now, not unlimited now, not guaranteed, just now. Time is the currency. The balance is not visible, cannot be checked. Nobody has that number. And that is not a line for speeches. That is a weight that should change how each hour gets used. Every day spent waiting is a day spent, not stored, not saved, not borrowed against later. Spent. Gone, producing nothing except more waiting, more distance, more debt between now
and the version of the life that requires payment to exist. Enough. The ones who are further along did not find lower prices, found the same world, same prices, said yes before feeling ready, before conditions were ideal. Conditions were never ideal. The price does not lower when timing feels right. The price is what the price is, and the only variable is when it gets paid, early or late. Early costs effort, late costs what is left, and what is left after years of avoided payment is almost always less than what it would have cost at the start.
What would it actually take to stop waiting for the free version? Not the easier version, the free one, no cost attached. The result without sacrifice, without the private years of becoming, without the cost of building the capable version before demonstrating it. That version does not exist, has never existed. Every time it appeared real, someone had already paid, out of sight, in hours not visible to anyone else, in years before the result appeared. The arrival was visible, not the cost. Study the cost, not as punishment, as education. When you see someone who has what you want, do not ask what was given. Ask what was paid. Ask how long. Ask what it cost that no audience witnessed, that no reward confirmed in the moment. That is where the result came from. Every payment made in quiet, before the result existed. The one in the middle of considering whether to stop, not failing, considering stopping, deciding the weight is too heavy, the price too high for too long, the debt too deep. That is real. The exhaustion is real. The weight is real. And the cost of stopping is larger than the cost of continuing, every time, without exception. Stopping does not cancel the debt. It changes the form of it, from active to passive, from building to just carrying, from something to show for it to nothing. The debt becomes the weight of the life that could have existed if the price had been paid. That weight is heavier than paying would have been. Ask anyone who stopped and had to begin again later at a higher price with less currency available, at a greater total cost. Paid twice because of one stop. Stay. Not because it is comfortable, because stopping costs more than anything staying currently demands. What happens when the payment is made? Not eventually, today. The first payment hurts. That is accurate. The first session, the first honest conversation, the first act before readiness arrives. It hurts. That is not a warning to stop. That is confirmation of starting. Pain is not the signal the price is wrong. Pain is the receipt. Proof the transaction is real. Proof the cost is actual. Proof the result will be actual because the cost was actual. Paid. Again. Paid. Again. Paid. Until it becomes the pattern. Until the pattern becomes the practice. Until the practice builds the result. Keep that receipt. Every real result started with a receipt that felt like too much in that exact moment. 5 years from now, one of two versions exists. The version that paid. Not perfect, not without scars, real, built by actual cost, held by actual sacrifice, standing on actual ground, with something to account for, that required something real to build. Or the version that waited,
with 5 more years of accumulated debt, 5 more years of distance between here and the built version that never got constructed because the price kept feeling too high. Built or abandoned, paid or deferred, earned or owed. One choice, today, one direction. Both versions are under construction, not by intention, by what actually happens next when the invoice arrives and the decision gets made. The world where results arrive free never existed. Not for you, not for anyone, not under any conditions, not at any point. The free version was always a story, told by people who needed to believe that someone else had it easier, that someone got the result without the price behind it. Nobody got the real result without the real cost. Some paid faster, some paid earlier, some paid where it was not visible, but every result that was actual had an actual cost behind it, a paid cost, an earned cost. And here is where you are, still in it, still carrying, still moving. Forward. Not as inspiration, as the only direction that builds anything. One payment aimed forward builds more than years of weight carried in the same position. Still being here is not building. Still surviving is not constructing. The weight must be aimed, not just carried. This is the reckoning, not punishment, final accounting. What did it cost to get here? Every piece of it. What did avoidance cost above that? What will the next year cost if payment starts now versus later? 1 year of movement, in effort, in discomfort, in showing up before ready, versus 1 year of stillness, in accumulated distance, in compounding debt, in the widening gap. One leads somewhere, one leads nowhere. Both cost. The one who has been paying in the wrong direction longer than felt useful, that debt is still redirectable. The aim can still change. Every payment made in the wrong direction becomes information about where to aim next. Choose which cost gets the currency. Currency goes somewhere, every single day, conscious or not, it goes somewhere. The only question is whether it goes towards something or continues building debt. The ones who built something real did not begin with more resources, began with the same weight, the same doubt, the same inbox of unpaid invoices. And on a day, not the right day, not the ready day, just a day, made a payment. Without knowing the return, without confirmation the price was worth it, without a guarantee attached. Just paid, then paid again, then again, until the payments became the pattern, until the pattern became the practice, until the practice built the result, until the result became the life. That sequence is available, not exclusive, not reserved, from exactly here, with what is currently available. Nothing will be given. That truth is the most freeing thing that can be held. Because if nothing is given, then everything is earnable. If there is no free version, then the paid version is accessible to anyone willing to pay, including you, especially you, because you have been paying longer than acknowledged, just not always aimed correctly. Not wasted, redirectable. Nothing was wasted, not the waiting, not the avoidance, not the years spent calculating whether the price was worth it. You know the price now, with a precision that only comes from carrying it long enough. Open the bill, read the number. Do not negotiate it. Do not wait for it to change. It will not. it will only compound. The number that feels too large today is smaller than the number waiting after another year of avoided payment.
Pay now, not because it is easy, because it is cheaper than paying later, with less available after another year of interest. Everything worth having had a price. Everything worth keeping had a cost. Everything worth becoming required full payment over time without a receipt until the end. You already knew this. The knowing was never the obstacle. The decision was the obstacle. Not information, not preparation, not conditions. The decision. Decisions do not require conditions, do not require the fear to disappear, do not require the weight to lift first. Decisions require one thing, the moment of making them. That moment is here, not the next one, not when something changes, not when the price feels smaller. Here, this weight, this cost, this exact version that has been carrying all of it and is still standing. The version that already paid more than is acknowledged just to stay in it, just to still be here, considering what comes next. That version is enough to make the next payment. Enough. Not the ready version, not the version without fear, not the version that sees the full path. This one, and the one thing that separates the paid version from exactly where you stand. Not talent, not timing, not circumstances that were different elsewhere. The decision to pay. That is it. That is the whole thing. That is everything. Nothing is free. That was always the truth. Nothing was ever free. Not once, not for anyone. But everything is earnable. And you are still here. The account is still open. Payments can still be made. The version being built is still under construction. Stop waiting for the price to change. Start paying what it actually costs. You already know how. Pay it.